Okay, we're going to go in and create a Silverlight business application. We're going to pick one of the new themes. I'm going to use the Jetpack theme and show you how to create a master detail Silverlight application. Connects to a backend databases, creates client proxies, creates a web service, all without writing any code. So we'll create this application, and first thing that you'll notice is that there are two projects that are built in. There is a web project. Again, this will host the web service and allow us to interact with the database. And then the Silverlight application, which provides the client proxies that interact with that service on the website. Well, the first thing we need to do is rebuild this, and that should take care of some of the problems. There's a lot of code generation going on behind the scenes. So as we rebuild this project, hopefully it will come back to life. And the first thing that we'll need to do is find a database that we'd like to connect to that contains our records. I'm going to be using the Chinook database. That's a free database, a sample database about music. So if we drag the Chinook and the Chinook log over to the app data folder on the website, that database then will be part of our website. When we deploy the application to the website, it will automatically connect to that database. So we're going to interact with the database through a ADO.NET entity data model. This is an object relational model. It will create a set of classes that we can use in our web service to connect to the database. So let's add that ADO.NET data model. We'll tell it where to get its information by connecting to the database that we just copied over. Change the data source to a database file. Go and browse for that file, and that you'll find, of course, in the app data directory of your web project. So I'll go to the project and navigate to the web and the app data, and there's my Chinook database. So I'll use Windows authentication for right now. I'll test the connection, make sure it all works, and I'll be ready to start interacting with the objects that will allow all the create, read, update, and delete operations on that database. Well, I'll click Next and select, for this example, just two of the tables in the Chinook database, the artist and the album. An artist has many albums. Well, as I create this new set of classes, I'll need to rebuild the project eventually. But first, let me indicate a new relationship between artists and albums. In other words, an artist may produce many albums. So by dragging the association from album to artist, I have a one-to-many relationship. So I'll need to identify for the entity data model that there is a relationship and indicate the constraint between artists and albums. So by right-clicking on the pane, you can open up the properties for the ADO.NET data model. Let's add a referential constraint. And if you click the three little dots on the end, that button, it will open up this dialog. We'll select artist, and the dependent would be album. So now if we rebuild our model, it will update those classes that work with this database. Well, let's add a web service. A web service will be expose an endpoint where our client proxy can connect and send messages to interact with the database. We chose a domain data service, and we're going to select that we'd like to be able to use the artist and the album. It will create for us all the service classes that will be exposed on the website. Well, let's go back and to our Silverlight project and notice all the neat things that we have over here. one of the things that happens when we rebuilt the project after we added the domain data service is we had a client proxy automatically created on the Silverlight side. So I'm just going to go in and grab one of the pre-built pages, the home XML, the home XAML, and navigate to the data sources tab. And this is where the client proxy exposes on the client side the artist and the fact that artist may have many albums. Well, I'm just going to drag and drop the data grid representing the artist out to the home XAML page. What this will do is create a data grid that will display on the Silverlight client everything about the artist. Well, I don't want everything, I just want the name, and I really don't want the user to be able to edit that right now, so I'm just going to say is read only for that name. Notice that all the bindings, all the work is done automatically. What I can do is maybe reset the width so it takes up the whole value. I'll select the data column for the name and set that to auto, set the width of that to auto, so it'll take up the entire grid. Well, back to my data sources. Artists have many albums, so I'll drag the album records associated with each artist, and this time if I go in and try and update the data grid, well, let me add the margin first. I want to make it look a little nicer, space it down a little bit. But if I go in and select data grid, it's grayed out. So what I'll have to do to get rid of some of these extra columns that I don't want my user to see, I'll just go in and edit the XAML. So where is that? So these columns down here, I really don't want to look at the album ID and the artist ID. So we've created a connection to the proxy. We've bound to the data grid. We can take a look at results of our effort. So behind the scenes now, we have a client Silverlight connecting to a web service. Windows automatically starts up the web service. And here we go. In a few moments, we'll have a complete application that will display as master the artists and as the detail the title of their albums. Well, the application is fully customizable, and if you go back to the main page, well, first of all, let me reset the width of my album data grid to have it take up the whole space. So I'm just going to reset that. It'll be an auto, so it'll take up the whole space. Look a little nicer. Again, if we go back and take a look at all the things that are available in the Silverlight application, the main page is where you can add your own pages and how you can customize the interactions with your application. Notice all the static data resources. One important static resource that's available on this project is the application strings. So let's take a little tour around the Silverlight project. You'll notice that we have some data sources, we have some helpers, we have some controls that are available to us. Well, if we go back to the open up the assets and take a look at the resources for those assets, this is where we can customize the strings that are displayed in our application. So these are all the values associated with the resource, the string application string resources. I'm just going to change one of the strings to my record collection as the application name. So if you are deploying your application in a different language, this is where you would do the internationalization. So I build this, and I hopefully will see my record collection displayed in the Silverlight application. So the next thing I want to talk about is the built-in security that comes with a Silverlight business application. So I don't have a entry on this site, but what I can do is go in and fill out a registration form for this. This registration data is stored automatically on a back-end database for ASP.NET. So I don't really have to do much. If I want to change the location or the database that's being used in the background for authentication, authorization, and roles, I can do that. So in this case, I'm just going to register for the website. As a developer, you can set the roles associated with me. So maybe some of my roles I could add, some of my roles I could edit, or maybe I could just look at the data in the database. Well, that is our introduction to a master detail client-driven web service proxy database with built-in security. And notice I didn't write any code.